it's the Gridiron Guys. Carey Davis, Super Bowl champion. I'm Anthony Stalter, and we're back for another season. And I don't want to start making any promises, Carey, but we do want to do this every week. We enjoy the podcast. The schedule got a little hectic for us last season, but we do want to break down the NFL because, Carey, it's our favorite. It's our favorite subject, man.
Last night was like the best day of the year. Opening day, football, Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens. There is nothing better than the first game of the year, getting the season kicked off. It's exciting, and I'm excited. I know you are. This weekend I'm going to be just engulfed in football, like drowning in it all weekend.
College, pro,
yeah, man,
everything.
It's back, so we're ready.
I love the text. So we're recording this on a Friday, so we will dive into the Chiefs' victory over the Ravens and what an opening night it was. Maybe we'll get into the Packers and Eagles, and then we're going to just kind of preview Week 1 since we're starting this the Friday before Week 1. But I love that. I looked down at one point. I had a text message from you, and you're just like, God, I love football.
I do, man.
I felt your energy because I had it too. I was buzzing. All right. Speaking of which, Chiefs 27, Ravens 20.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Carey, the biggest takeaway I had was you really had to beat the Chiefs last year.
Yeah.
The defense was young. Patrick Mahomes didn't his weapons weren't great. Kelsey had an off year by his standards.
Right.
The wide receiver room not great at all. You add Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
He's a gadget guy right now, but a gadget guy that could do what he did last night and score 2 touchdowns. One off I don't know if it was a jet sweep or reverse.
I think it was reverse, yeah.
And then you also had him off the busted coverage score a touchdown too. This Chiefs team has improved. The defense is more experienced. You have the same coaching staff. Kelsey didn't do really anything last night. Didn't have to.
Right.
Pacheco's still the man. I mean, I didn't even think that either team was in midseason form. But you had to beat the Chiefs last year.
You know what? I went into that game and I'm thinking to myself, Baltimore with the addition of Derrick Henry, who to me, that's one of the best pickups in the offseason because of the style of football that they play. And you saw it benefit Lamar Jackson last night. You had a lot of read options off of the play, run reads, and he was able to do his thing. There's going to come a point where the teams are more focused on him and Derrick Henry will be downhill. But I agree. You think you may have had to got the Chiefs last year when that was their down year. It's amazing to say it was a down year and they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If you can put those two things together, down year, but we also won the Super Bowl. Teams might be a little bit worried about what the Chiefs have this season because that was a great performance. Now it was sloppy. Obviously both sides. The Ravens had so many penalties to start that game on the offensive line. Just things that you don't get to clean up because you have one less preseason game. Guys are not playing as much in the preseason, and so you have some of those things come up. But, I think football is back, man, and if you're not excited, then I don't know that we can be friends.
I hear you. Yeah, Ronnie Stanley, kind of rough night. He had the penalties, just over and over and over again. And I thought to myself, I'm like, the NFL is going to take notes here. I know they're trying to emphasize that new rule with the offensive line, and you can't
right.
basically have your left tackle be such a wing back.
Yeah.
But the NFL, I think, will start to scale back a little bit. One note with the Ravens, I did not think that was their best game.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lamar left some plays on the table, and yet 273 yards, and if it wasn't for a toe for Isaiah Likely, and what a tough performance. Great second half for Isaiah Likely. If it wasn't for his toe being out of bounds, Ravens probably go for 2, and who knows if they get it, or if they win that game outright. My overall point is Lamar is we look at Patrick Mahomes, and it's like everything's graded off Mahomes, just like everything was graded off of Brady.
Right.
Lamar didn't have his best night, and yet there the Ravens were. He put him on his back again. Zay Flowers is a dude.
Mm-hmm.
Henry had a key run there on a 3rd and 1 that was. He was hitting the backfield, bounced off, and wound up picking a first down. This Ravens, these are the 2 best teams in the AFC.
I agree, and we've only seen one game, and but it was that way last year. These were the 2 teams in the AFC Championship game. These are more than likely going to be the 2 teams in the AFC Championship game again this year. And same thing you just said with the Chiefs. They had a bad season. It wasn't their best season, but they won the Super Bowl. Lamar didn't have his best game, but he almost had 400 yards worth of offense.
Yep.
Put that together.
Yep.
He could have played better. He had 395 yards of offense. So
that's how good he is.
That's how good he is.
Yep.
MVP from last year and headed in that direction after one game right now. It's going to be a great season. for the Kansas City Chiefs and for the Baltimore Ravens. And again, we are just lucky to be able to watch and be involved in some way, some form, some fashion.
That's Carey Davis, Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm Anthony Stalter. This is the Gridiron Guys. So let's dive into each matchup. We'll be quick. We'll add some thoughts. We'll add some predictions to it. If there's a fantasy or a betting angle that we want to throw in there, we will. We're kind of just we're just doing our thing. Yeah. So there's not going to be a ton of structure to this necessarily in week one. When we come back next week, I'd love to get a reaction podcast in. But I think when it comes to the Friday podcast, or if we wind up doing on Thursdays, let's just dive into the matchups. I think that's what listeners want. Yeah. So Packers and Eagles tonight. Again, we're recording on a Friday. The Eagles are laying 2.5 right now. Two teams that are expected to make the playoffs in the NFC. They're playing this one in a dangerous spot. I mean, they can't wear green. Neither team can wear green because of the gang involvement down there.
Both teams, what is their base color?
You couldn't find two greener teams to send to this place. So, anyways, how do you see this one playing out?
You know, I talked about the addition of Derrick Henry for the Baltimore Ravens, the addition of Saquon Barkley for the Philadelphia Phillies. It's baseball season. Philadelphia Eagles is, I think that was another addition that I loved. I obviously, I'm a former running back. I love the running backs getting their love, and so what they were unable to do last year, the Eagles, it just felt like the offense was stagnant. They were trying to get the ball to A.J. Brown too much. Devontae Smith is a hell of a receiver. They got a lot of talent on that offense. No doubt. I think bringing in Saquon Barkley forces you to hopefully hand the ball off and turn around and hand it off and allow him to do what he can do. And then that should open up some things in the pass game and alleviate some pressure for Jalen Hurts. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFC. And so, everyone is on the Jordan Love train with all, he showed it. He did a great job. He went down to Dallas last year in the playoffs and beat the hell out of them. Again, I still think the Cowboys thought they were showing up for practice instead of a game. They might have had a bye and the game was next week because they got to the stadium like, oh, we got a game today?
Right.
What's Green Bay doing here?
Biggest game. Right.
So they were moving extremely slow. And he did a great job. But I think the Philadelphia Eagles, for me, are one of the better teams 2 years removed from the Super Bowl, and I think they'll be headed back in that direction this year.
So it sounds like you like the Eagles tonight. I like the Eagles tonight. I think it's going to be a competitive game. As you know, I love Jordan Love going into the season last year. I thought he had a lot to prove. It was good early on, rough in the middle, and great at the end. Yep. So it's like the Packers built all this momentum going into the offseason, and the Eagles now have a lot of question marks after the second half collapsed last year. I'll start off with the question mark first. I'm really interested to see Cam Jurgens, the second-round pick at center, because he's replacing Jason Kelce.
Yes.
And Jason Kelce sets all the protections. I mean, he did so much for that Eagles offense that you're now making this transition to a younger, inexperienced guy. So I think that I do question. But the addition of Bryce Huff to this defense, this front seven with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, Devin White will not play tonight, but they did add Devin White to that linebacking core that also features Josh Sweat. I think the front seven for the Eagles is nasty.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the more talented rosters. You already mentioned Saquon Barkley. I think the Eagles get it done, but I think it's a close game.
Yeah, I agree.
As we move on to Sunday, again, we'll kind of fly through these. Vikings and Giants, not a matchup that a lot of people love, but it's the first one I'm looking down here on Sunday. It's a noon kickoff, 1 Eastern. Vikings are laying a point in this game. This is a weird one. You got the Vikings now with Sam Darnold. They're moved on from Kirk Cousins. I think that's the right choice, but J.J. McCarthy, their first-round pick, is now hurt. The Giants, I think, are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. I think you and I disagree on that, but
we do.
I don't think that's an overly talented roster. And I think that with the Vikings bringing back some continuity with Brian Flores and that defense, I do think they get it done on the road. But I'll be completely honest, this is a coin flip game.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked if the Eagles won, or if the Giants won.
So I am in complete different opinion of you of the New York Giants. Again, I watched the off-season Hard Knocks, which I never watch Hard Knocks because, full transparency, the Hard Knocks in season or the preseason leaves me a little bit shattered because of my football career.
Waiting for the knock on the door.
Knock on the door. Hey,
need your playbook.
Coach, want to see you? I don't talk to you. So, but I think the Giants did a really good job this offseason. They went in with a plan to potentially replace Daniel Jones if they could do it in the draft. They were unable to, and they got a high draft pick and a great player in Malik Neighbors. That playmaking receiver that the Giants lacked last year. They did not have a guy that could go get the ball and make a play. Their best player offensively, in my opinion, was Saquon Barkley, who is no longer there. So I do like the Giants a little bit more. And the Vikings also went to go get a first-round quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. He's, as you said, injured. He's not playing. Sam Darnold, they're trying to see if they can recycle and get that good play from him and see really the first time we would see really good play from him, in my opinion. So I'm not a believer in Sam Darnold at this point just yet. Daniel Jones has had a bunch of injuries, but I think that, all in all, I think he'll be a better quarterback in that game, and I think the Giants will win that game.
The Jaguars and Dolphins are also a 1 Eastern kickoff, and this one might be played in a monsoon. I mean, they're talking about thunderstorms, bad weather, and all that. I have leaned – I did this last year. I lean toward the Dolphins early in the season. When opponents have to go down to South Beach and deal with that weather, it's an issue. However, the Jaguars obviously practice in similar conditions. Correct. They're a little bit they're way more north than the Dolphins are, but still, you're talking about weather conditions that I don't think are going to impact Jacksonville like a team that's east or west have to deal with. So I think that this is going to be a closer game than people realize. It's the number's 3.5. I would take the Jaguars plus the 3.5.
Really?
But I still think that this is a field goal game either way. I like Jacksonville's team. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't get hurt last year, they probably make the playoffs. I don't think they do anything. But if Trevor Lawrence can cut back on the turnovers, I think that this is a solid overall roster. Eric Armstead joins that defense. I like Aluakon, the linebacker, who's all over the place. They also bring back another wide receiver core, gets a little dicey with Calvin Ridley no longer there. But they drafted Brian Thomas, so we'll see what he is. Christian Kirk meant a lot to that team, and Gabe Davis is a decent deep threat. I love Travis Etienne. Again, it all comes down to Trevor Lawrence holding on to the ball. But I think that this is a close game, and again, I think this is a field goal game either way.
You're probably higher on the Jags than I am. I'm leaning towards the Dolphins in this matchup. I think the Dolphins, they showed so much explosive offense last year, big play after big play after big play. You'll probably see more Devon Achane than you saw last year. He came on the scene and just burst out of nowhere and was amazing. Him and Raheem Mostert did a great job. They got the fastest man in football. Well, Xavier Worthy may want to have a conversation with him, but Tyreek Hill, until someone takes over that seat. I think the Dolphins, for me, and Tua, just getting his contract this offseason, going to be more relaxed, going to be more comfortable, more confident. You're starting to see it. You've seen it in some of the interviews he's had in the offseason. You haven't heard him talk that much about things that have gone on. So I think he's going to be more confident, more comfortable. And I think the Dolphins, for me, I don't know that they're able to win that division because, again, early in the season, outstanding. You got to come to Miami. Yeah, it's going to be a problem. But when it gets late in the season and they got to go to Buffalo, to New England, to New York, when it's cold, that team changes a little bit. Yeah. But for tonight or for tomorrow, for this weekend, I do have them beating the Jags, and I think it'll be more than that 3.5 point spread that's laying right now.
NFC South matchup: the Panthers and the Saints. I'm gonna be a walking contradiction here, CD. Okay. But I think the Panthers are going to be a better team overall. I think the Saints may want it because.
What gives you that?
They were terrible a year ago. Coaching wasn't good enough. Bryce Young had no weapons, no nothing. The offensive line was porous. I thought Carolina was just a disaster going in. I was really high on Bryce Young last season. I think you were too.
Yeah.
Get a full year under his belt. He got beat up. He's a smaller guy, but I think that Dave Canales, the new head coach there, and what he did with Baker Mayfield in Tampa, I think that Dave Canales is gonna work well with Bryce Young. I think the Saints are one of those teams that's gonna fade, and we're talking about Dennis Allen potentially getting fired at some point, and maybe Derek Carr even benched.
Yeah.
But I do not think that will happen quite yet. A lot of people are on Carolina. A lot of people are taking Carolina plus the 4. That's still a tough environment to go into, especially week 1.
Yeah.
I think the Saints are going to be all full of piss and vinegar. They're going to win this one. They're going to, people are going to be like, oh, maybe we underestimated the Saints. Maybe we overestimated the Panthers' improvement. But then things will start to break away and go back to, I think Carolina being improved and New Orleans, taking a step back. But I do have the Saints in this one.
I have the Saints as well. Again, I Derek
Derek
Carr
Carr guy,
is the name, and last year I was on the Derek Carr train. I believe that him coming from Oakland and Las Vegas, him having the change and the transition, I thought he was going to do a great job. It wasn't great, and I thought all of the weapons around him were going to be used in the correct way. They weren't. So I don't know what you get from Alvin Kamara. I don't know what you get from Taysom Hill. I don't know if he's a tight end, a quarterback, a fullback, a running back. He does all these things, but I would like to see Alvin Kamara get the bulk load of the touches in the pass game and the running game, and not anybody else. So I think that if they can figure that out, they added Willie Gay, who from Kansas City, from the Chiefs, who did a great job for them last year. So I think the Saints they'll be competitive in that division.
Yeah.
I think we all assume we know who the winner of that division is, but for this game, I think I'm taking the Saints as well.
Well, speaking of which, the Falcons host your Pittsburgh Steelers. So my Falcons host your Steelers in Week 1. This is This is a nightmare scenario for me as a Falcon fan because they have let me down so many times. 28-3 being the headliner, but it's not like that. That was the only time that the Falcons have blown games. The Steelers play close games.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers, with Mike Tomlin, as you know, your former head coach, everything comes down to a field goal, and these are the games that typically Atlanta loses. I do think, though, that the hype for the Falcons this year is real.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins is going to play with a chip on his shoulder after the Michael Penix selection. The O-line's really good. Bijan, I think they're going to use Bijan in a way that Arthur Smith did not, use him a year ago. I like the weapons. I love the additions of Matthew Judon and Jeffrey Simmons to that defense. I think Atlanta winds up winning this one, and this is going to be the one that I regret saying because as that field goal, as the Steelers field goal kicker kicks the ball through the uprights and the clock goes down to 0,
you'll feel it.
I'm gonna feel it. But for now, I am gonna take my Falcons against your Steelers.
So I'm taking Pittsburgh. I know it's probably picking with my heart, not my head, but
I think we both do.
I think Pittsburgh they upgraded at the quarterback position. As much as people want to complain and talk about Russell Wilson and talk about Justin Fields and say that those guys, whatever your complaints about them are, they are an upgrade from last year's group. And so if you can find a way, you talked about Arthur Smith, if you can find a way to run the football, hand the ball off to Najee Harris, hand the ball off to Jalen Warren, and find some playmaking downfield. George Pickens is a damn good receiver and will go get the football. And then defensively, you still got Watt. You still got Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
You still got guys on that defense that are Cam Hayward. You got guys that are going to get after the quarterback and be sound on the back end. So I don't have concerns about Pittsburgh defensively. But Atlanta does have a lot of weapons.
Mm-hmm.
You went out and they did a fantastic job over the last 3 to 4 years of adding weapon and weapon and weapon. And now the issue is, or the question is, are they able to get all those guys involved?
Right.
Do they have the quarterback? And you got your Kirk Cousins jersey on. I saw it. I saw you take it off before we came in.
I like regular season Kirk. I don't love postseason Kirk.
So if they are able to get those guys the ball and get them in space, I think it'll be great. But I do have the Steelers in this game on Sunday.
All right, we're the Gridiron Guys here. Carey Davis, Super Bowl champion. I'm Anthony Stalter. The Patriots and the Bengals. I think the Patriots have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. I think that they're going to win about 2 to 3 games this year. I would take the under on their 4.5 win total.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bengals have so many question marks coming in. T. Higgins may not play. He apparently wasn't at practice the other day. Jamar Chase is in the middle of a contract dispute. Sounds like Jamar Chase will play. 7.5 is a lot. And I think I think everybody's so down on New England this year. I would take the points in what could be a closer game than what people are expecting. That's as far as I'm willing to go on this matchup because I do think, again, the Patriots win about 2 to 3 games this season. But 7.5 in an NFL game, Week 1, so much uncertainty surrounding Cincinnati, who I do think is an AFC North contender this year. I'm going to take the Patriots in the points.
I'm going to take I'm taking the Bengals to win the game, and I think they will cover that 7.5. I think they will be able to. The Patriots, as you said, they don't have a lot of talent. They were picking high in the draft last year. They'll be picking high in the draft again this year. The only questions and concerns that you talked about is the receiving core, Jamar Chase. He hasn't really practiced. He's been holding in for the last couple of weeks at practice and been at practice but not a participant and started participating this week. Is he ready to roll? Is he ready to play at that elite level that is required? Joe Burrow, is he going to be healthy the entire season? I think that's going to be important. And then what do they do in the running game? You know, they got Zach Moss. They let Joe Mixon go.
Yep.
They got Chase Brown as the backup to Zach Moss. So how does that running game look? But I think I do like, with a healthy Joe Burrow, I like the Cincinnati Bengals pretty much against most teams that they'll play against.
Yeah, I think they win. I think it's going to be a little closer. All right, Bills and Cardinals. I feel like you and I are going to be on opposite sides of this one. I think the Bills have been, as soon as they traded Stephon Diggs, it's like everybody jumped off the Buffalo Bills bandwagon.
As they
Everybody thinks
should.
they're going to stink, including my co-host, Carey Davis. I think they and Arizona, I almost feel like people are hyping up Arizona, Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., and the way that the Cardinals finished the season last year. I do think Arizona is intriguing, but this is a bad spot. I think Buffalo's going to come out ready to go. I think that their team now is more physical on both sides of the ball. They might not be as talented as they have been, but I think they're going to be more physical, and I think they're trying to build a playoff roster as opposed to a dome team that gets their handed to them by the Bengals in the playoffs. I'm going to lay the 6. I think this is another matchup that people are overhyping the underdog in, and I'm going to lay the 6 with the Bills.
So for me, the team that you like the Bills, I'm not a fan of getting rid of your best player and thinking that your team is going to get better. They lost their top 2 receivers from last year. I know they got 2 really good tight ends. They're going to have to use them a lot because they don't have as much experience on the outside with their receivers. The running game still, I think, leaves a lot to be desired. You lost Tre'Davious White. Matt Milano is out. And so you're going to have, guys that are trying to figure it out defensively, in my opinion, and offensively. I'm not a fan of Buffalo getting rid of their best player. I don't ever think it works. I don't ever think it works well for a team to get rid of their best player and think that they're going to be better. And when you're looking at the Cardinals, I think they're going to be a really, really good team. Like, competitive in their division, and this is a team that, with Kyler Murray hurt to start the beginning of last year, they were extremely competitive in all the games they played in to start the season, playing hard as hell under Jonathan Gannon. So I think they'll do that again. And you got your 1A receiver. You got Connor in the backfield. You got Budda Baker roaming and running people down and, just doing what he does, playing at a high level. I think that this Cardinal team is going to be much better than people expect. I think they're looking at how they started and how they looked last year. But when you add the quarterback that they added back in Kyler Murray and you add a Marvin Harrison Jr., I think they're going to be really good.
AFC South matchup, Texans and Colts. This is another situation. I'm going to take the home dog, +2.5. Colts are +2.5. This Indy team nearly made the playoffs last year with Gardner Minshew. I know there's a lot of questions surrounding Anthony Richardson, but there was a lot of questions surrounding Anthony Richardson in Week 1 last year, and he almost helped the Colts pull off the upset. I think it was against Jacksonville. He's going to be an issue, and I think this Texans team is really good. They should win the AFC South. Excuse me. They should play well. They should be a playoff team, and they should challenge in the AFC. All of that is true, but there's always upsets Week 1.
Yeah,
and I think if it's a divisional game, people are sleeping on the Colts. I think they're talented on both sides. I think this is a big year for Jonathan Taylor. Colts got some weapons, too. The offensive line has slowly gotten better over the years. Give me the Colts +2.5 and an upset.
Anthony, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. Did you not watch the Texans play last year?
I did.
Did you not see C.J. Stroud play last year?
He was excellent.
He was excellent. They did a fantastic job. And guess what they did in the offseason? What did they add? The guy that the team we just talked about.
Guy you just talked about, yep.
They added him, Stephon Diggs, to a receiving core that was already really good but young. I don't know how you believe that the Colts have an opportunity to win this game at all on Sunday, but I think the Houston Texans will build on what they did last year, which was an outstanding job they had. They also added Joe Mixon in the running game because the running game was left a little bit to be desired last year. So if they can hand him the ball off and get him going downhill a little bit, Daniil Hunter at defensive end, they added also. Like, this is a team, in my opinion, that got better from a team that surprised a lot of people. They weren't just resting on what they did last season. Yep. They said, you know what? Last season was good. First-year head coach, first-year quarterback. Let's build on it and get better. And I think they're going to beat the hell out of Colts in Indianapolis on Sunday.
Divisional game? No, they won't beat the hell out of them. Yeah. All right, so the Bears and the Titans. Talk about hype. It's about off-season hype. There's a lot of hype surrounding the Bears. I never know what the Titans are, ever. I never know what they are. They're to me, they're that roster that is always confusing. I don't know if they're any good.
Right.
I don't know if they're just average. I'm actually going to buy into the Bears the first week.
Okay.
I think Caleb Williams has a big game. I don't know who on Tennessee in that front seven Obviously they've got Jeffrey Simmons, and
He's a problem.
He is a problem. I think this Bears offensive line is better than it has been. I think Caleb Williams with the rushing ability is going to be there. You talk about weapons now. He's got some weapons, not only in Rome Odunze, who they drafted in the first round, but Cole Kmet and DJ Moore. Soldier feels tough in week one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to lay the 3.5 points with the Bears, and I think that Bears team's going to be overhyped by mid-season, and then I'll start picking them apart.
So I think the Bears, when you look at the Titans, you don't know what to expect. You really don't know what to expect from Will Levis.
Right.
You haven't seen enough of it. They added Calvin Ridley, who did a fantastic job last year in Jacksonville. But
No
what are
Derrick
you going
Henry.
to get? No Derrick Henry. Got Tony Pollard, who
Yeah. I loved him 2 years ago.
He looked like he needed a Batman and Robin type, thunder and lightning type situation as he had 2 years ago when Zeke was there with him.
Now it's going to be lightning and lightning.
It's going to be him and
Tajay Sharp. That's it. Yeah.
So I'm not sure what to expect from this Tennessee Titans team. But the Chicago Bears, in my opinion, did a great job again in the offseason, going to get the number 1 pick in Caleb Williams. They did a fantastic job 2 years ago with the trades that they made and getting the draft picks and the draft capital. Like they are a team, in my opinion, that is prepared to take the next step in that division. I don't know if they'll be able to, win the division just yet, but because it all depends on how well Caleb Williams plays. But I do like the Bears in this game, and I like them to win obviously more games than they won last year.
We'll kind of speed up a little bit. The Chargers and Raiders. I think the Chargers, they got rid of a lot of talent, right? Like they got rid of Keenan Allen. They traded him to Chicago. I didn't even mention Keenan Allen as a weapon for Caleb Williams. But the Chargers got rid of a lot of guys. They're cleaning house, but they brought in Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Harbaugh's won everywhere he's gone. This Raiders team, I think, is going to be a mess. The offense, the quarterback's a mess. The offensive line is going to be awful this season. I wouldn't be surprised if Devontae Adams is frustrated again like he was last year. If you watch Receiver on Netflix, you can tell. This is somebody that was really frustrated throughout the course of the season last year. I wouldn't be shocked if Devontae Adams, either quietly or not quietly, asked for a trade.
Mm-hmm.
And he winds up maybe with his old buddy Aaron Rodgers of the Jets. Either way, I like the Chargers in this matchup. I think the Raiders are going to be a mess. It's more to me about the Raiders and the Chargers in this one. But I do think that Jim Harbaugh will have his team ready.
I think the Chargers are going to be running the football. They got they've done a great job of drafting offensive linemen over the last couple of years, and they drafted another one this year in Joe Alt. And so I know a lot of people are waiting on Justin Herbert to be that next tier level of quarterback. I don't know if you're going to see it this year because I think Jim Harbaugh is going to hand the ball off, play action pass, get plays downfield. You lost your top 2 receivers, one often injured in Mike Williams, but Keenan Allen the other one. I just don't know if I don't know what they'll be. They should beat the hell out of the Raiders because again the Raiders are they're in shambles a little bit. So I agree with you. I like the Chargers in this matchup as well.
I like the Seahawks minus the 6. It feels like a big number, but you're talking about a rookie quarterback who I know had a lot of preseason hype. A lot of people love Bo Nix. A lot of people love Sean Payton. I'm one of them. But I still think that this Denver Broncos team is largely devoid of talent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that this is an impressive roster.
Yeah.
That's a tough environment to go into for week one for a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. And I think McDonald, the new head coach for Seattle, he was in Baltimore. Defensively, he's going to scheme it up. I think there's going to be a couple of missteps here by Bo Nix in his debut, and the Seahawks wind up winning and covering the 6.
For me, Bo Nix, I don't know what to expect either. Like when you watch a quarterback in the preseason, he can look great, but the coverage, what we call vanilla, it's plain as plain can be. There is no scheming. There is nothing
no chocolate sauce, no sprinkles.
There's no nothing, no additives. So we'll see how he fares when these defenses are game planning for him and trying to figure out what he can or cannot do. I think it'll be a little bit different. And again, in Seattle, that will be a tough task.
I'm going to fade another rookie quarterback, although I love Jaden Daniels. I think he wins Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Daniels.
I do. I think he's going to run around. I think he's going to be a lot of fun, and I think he's going to keep Washington in a lot of games this year. Tough environment again, though. You go down to Raymond James Stadium. Bucks won a playoff game. Last time they played at that stadium, they beat the Eagles in the playoffs. The Bucks are bringing back a lot of the same core. On both sides of the ball, minus a Devin White. So I like the Bucks in this one. Again, rookie on the road, week one, it's tough. So give me the Bucks minus 3.
I'm with you, Bucks all the way. I think rookie quarterback, as you said, going to be a tough task for anybody. So on the road, it's definitely a tough task. So give me the Bucks as well.
I think that the Cowboys beating the Browns, if I'm looking at kind of like a lock, give me the Cowboys.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what Deshaun Watson's going to be.
You're the same person that told me they had 5. Oh, maybe that was Jamie. One of you all told me they had 5 quarterbacks last year and made the playoffs. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Does it?
Unless it's Deshaun Watson.
Well, he was part of the 5. He was one of the 5.
I think Mike Zimmer's going to do a great job with this Dallas defense. I think Cleveland's got some issues. They're going to start a rookie against Micah Parsons along that offensive line. I think Dallas goes into Cleveland and pulls off a small upset because they're 2.5.
I think Dallas wins this game as well, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as what you're saying. I don't think it's a lock because Cleveland, again, coach of the year, 5 different quarterbacks, made the playoffs, found a way to win games despite all of the injuries at the most important position on the offense. And then they got one of the better defenses in the league with Myles Garrett coming off the edge. Good luck for anybody. So it's going to be a close game, but I would think that the Cowboys have the chance and they should win that game.
And then Sunday night, because we'll leave the Monday game. Maybe we'll do a podcast again on Monday and we'll preview the Monday night game. But the Sunday night game, Rams, Lions, same 2 teams that met in the playoffs last year. Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit once again. Raucous crowd. No Aaron Donald this time around. I think the Lions, this feels a little high at +4. I'm going to lay it. I believe in this Lions team. Last year, I was like, hey, prove it to me. This year, you don't have to prove anything. That's a good team. Well-coached, talented. They hopefully fix the issues in the secondary. That was the biggest issue last year. T.J. Hawkinson. I just mentioned the tight end. No, I meant Aiden Hutchinson.
Oh, okay.
Aiden Hutchinson's going to probably dominate that Rams offensive line. Give me the Lions.
For me, I think that the Rams losing Aaron Donald, I don't know if you know how important, like I know the Rams know, but other teams, when you lose somebody as dominant as Aaron Donald, one of the best defensive players to ever play the game, how many eyeballs are glued to him? That's going to free up that offensive line to look around and have some other guys to block. So I think the Rams are probably defensively going to struggle to start off the season, just trying to figure out how they run their things and get it going. And this offense for the Lions is spectacular.
Absolutely.
They got weapons on weapons on weapons. And so I think that'll be a good matchup. And I think I agree. I think the Lions will win as well.
New defensive coordinator for the Rams, too, is Raheem Morris, was hired to be the Falcons head coach. All right, that'll do it for the first installment of the Gridiron Guys, at least in 2024. We'll be back hopefully on Monday where we'll react to all the games and also preview that Monday game. Hopefully you liked a very sped-up Gridiron Guys. We'll maybe dive in a little bit deeper again coming up on Monday. But we appreciate it. Enjoy all the Week 1 action for Super Bowl champion Carey Davis. I'm Anthony Stalter, and this has been the Gridiron Guys.